All right, what is up, Utah fans? This is Joseph back with the Utah Utes Football Digest. And Utah's defense dominates UCLA, holding them to a 14-17 win. Huge day for the defense. We're going to get into it. I've got San Antonio Ute in the background here. I'm going to bring him on in a second. Before I do that, though, I want to say a couple things. There were so many UCLA fans and just negative people about Utah in my comments all week saying that we could not hang. That there was one guy that said UCLA is going to put up 25 plus on us easily. It's a guarantee. And the only way we're going to win is if our offense steps up, gets it done. UCLA had a ton of hype going into this game. I think that's really real. People were really high on UCLA. As I said going into the game, and a lot of people said they had not been tested yet. They had played a cupcake schedule and were walking into wins, UCLA was. So I just want to say we proved the haters wrong. It was awesome. Our defense was elite, and we are still undefeated in Salt Lake City, as I believe we should go throughout the rest of the year as long as everything goes well. So go Utes. It's going to be a fun show tonight, guys. We're going to talk about the game. We're going to talk about the players from the game. Should be a ton of fun. Make sure you guys like the video as you get in. Comment in the chat what your thoughts are on the game, and we'll try to address them as we go. Subscribe to the channel. Share the video with someone you know. And on that note, let's go ahead and bring on Brian Ankrum, San Antonio Ute. How you doing, man?
No, doing pretty well today. It was a long Saturday, so pretty exhausted.
Well, yeah, it was so many good games, huh? We'll talk later about the whole Pac-12 and what we thought about the week in the Pac-12. But why don't you give us your thoughts, Brian? Let's jump in.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a fantastic defensive performance by both teams actually, but for Utah to hold them to 9 rushing yards, they were one of the top running teams in the country coming into this game. Granted, hadn't been tested against a good defense like they saw yesterday, or in an environment like they saw yesterday. But that was a great performance. Really could have been shut out. They had that. I think they were 3rd and 27 on their own 2-yard line, and ended up getting out of that, picking up a first down on 4th down, and I think like 4 or 5 plays they moved 98 yards down the field for their only score. So outside of that, they really did nothing. The keys to the game were keeping UCLA's running game in check and putting pressure on Dante Moore. So you can put a check mark in front of both of those boxes because they caused so much disruption all game. 7 sacks, could have been more. I think they got away with a few that very well could have been a sack had it not been for hanging on or tackling one of the players. But yeah, really impressed. Offensively, we need to figure something out. I mean, you can't run the ball 3 times every single possession between the tackles and then punt. It's just not working. I really liked when they rolled Nate Johnson out. I think it opened up a lot more of what he can do. He can utilize his arm or his legs when he gets rolled out into space like that. And, that's how we scored a touchdown. It was a good play design. I just wish we would have seen a lot more of that instead of just pounding the ball up the middle. I mean, I feel like the coaching staff really basically gave in to the fact that our defense was holding so strong and that UCLA was probably going to have troubles moving the ball all day. So we just wanted to, I guess, just control the clock, which we did. Time of possession was.
Yeah, it really felt like early in the game we decided, we're not going to have a huge high flying offense this game. And you're right. They played super conservatively to make it that way. I agree 100%. Let's talk about the good. I want to talk about the things we saw that were really good from Utah, and then we'll probably talk about some of the negatives that we saw as well. I'd say it was almost all good for me. I mean, I think you're spot on when you say that became the game plan. I think our offense still has concerns, but that was more of a game plan where it was like, hey, our defense looks amazing right now. Let's go ahead and put the game on them, which I think all of us talked about going into this game, is that we needed a big defensive day. And, you see here, Dante Moore, 15 for 35 for 234 yards. Those numbers don't look terrible. They don't look good, but they don't look terrible. The vast majority of those yards were at the end of the fourth quarter when we were playing a little bit of bend, don't break, let them kind of milk the clock as they were passing. He had some good throws, but let's not act like he actually threw for 230 yards on us. That was more end of the game.
That's like 43% completion rate. So that's not good. I mean, he was seeing ghosts out there, which, that's what caused a lot of his errant throws. I think he was just getting so much pressure. He felt like he continuously had to get rid of the ball as soon as he could.
No, agreed. And speaking on that, the Utah defense, an amazing day. I mean, let's pull up their numbers just to show. Where are we? Oh, we're on UCLA right now. Let me switch to Utah. We pull up the defensive numbers, dude. It was a pretty wild day for the Utes. It was pretty awesome. We can go ahead and talk about him now. I feel like there's no waiting to talk about him because he was obviously a monster yesterday. It's Jonah Ellis. Jonah Ellis was clearly dominant yesterday. Even when he wasn't getting sacks, he was continuously pressuring. It was such an awesome day for him. And if you guys do not know yet, Jonah Ellis currently leads the country in sacks. Huge stat. I feel like if you're a 5-star defensive lineman, if you're a 4.3 5-star defensive lineman, why are you not going to Utah? Like, you look at these guys that come into Utah and they become monsters. They weren't crazy prospects to come in here. Imagine what we could do with a 5-star defensive end. Imagine Kayvon Thibodeau, if he had the right attitude, if he came to Utah, what that would look like, dude. I could only imagine. Why don't you tell me about your thoughts on Jonah Ellis?
Jonah, yeah. What's going on here? Is that me or you?
It's not me.
Yeah, I think the ads came up. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Same thing that happens all the time when we get on ESPN. Yeah, Jonah Ellis was way too much to handle. Was it Finau who he was going against? He graded out kind of poorly going into this game, so that was the matchup to watch.
Yeah.
And Jonah Ellis absolutely just overwhelmed him. Our defensive tackles, though, I do want to say this: it was very apparent that Pepa and Tafuna were back. They helped really disrupt or really solidify the rush defense, and which allowed us to hold them to 9 yards rushing. They were great in the middle, along with Tanavasa. Tanavasa is probably our best D tackle at getting to the quarterback, and he's a super young kid, so there's a lot of excitement behind him. But having Tafuna and Pepa back was massive.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I actually want to spend another minute on Jonah Ellis before we move on to talking about some other guys, because there are a bunch of other guys to talk about. I just want to pull up the stats here real quick, the team report. So first off, just PFF-wise, just so everyone is aware, Jonah Ellis, his grade was a 89.7. I'm not sure if the grades are fully cooked yet. Sometimes they change. I think it was like a 92 this morning. Usually it's a day or two, but still 89.7, ridiculous. And they actually give him credit for 6 sacks here. So pretty wild there. Or no, this is on the season.
It should be 3.5,
6 sacks on the season, yeah. But I want to find that game. Why am I not at the game? Usually it takes you to the game. Give me 1 second here. But he had a heck of a day. That's why it was a different number. Boom, Utah Utes. All right, I'm about to have it. All right, Jonah Ellis had yesterday a 92.0. That was his PFF grade for the game yesterday. That's just so everyone understands what that means. That's like incredible day. Like it's like one of the best players in college football yesterday. So super good grade by Jonah Ellis. But then on top of that, just the actual breakdown, PFF credits him with 4 sacks, and then they have 5 hurries for him. So monster. He also leads. He's second place, I believe, in tackles for loss in the country. Jonah Ellis has just been dominant since the season started. He's really flashed in some big games, and when you got a guy back there, a young guy like Dante Moore, you can't underestimate how impactful Jonah Ellis really is. He is getting back there. He is making plays. He's making guys like Dante Moore uncomfortable. And so, like this D line at the end of the day, we'll move to the next guy in a second, but this D line is such a big reason why we won that game. Like that, they were just nasty all day. So let's move to the next guy. I feel like for me, the next guy that I really felt like deserved a shout out is going to be Keanu Tanuvasa. I thought he really played lights out yesterday. That forced fumble, huge hit on the quarterback, looked awesome to me. You got him pulled up here. They got him credited with 1 sack and 1 hurry. So looked good for me. What did you think about Keanu Tanuvasa?
I thought he looked great again. I think he's done such a great job this year filling in for our injured D tackles who haven't really played up until this game. And I'm really excited to see him, as the year progresses, as well as what he's going to do, in his career the next coming years, because he's got so many moves. That little spin move he does is wicked. That people they can't seem to figure it out. And
he's a nasty pass rusher, dude.
He swims right by people. Yeah. I mean, it's great, and just with him, and then getting Tafuna and Peppa back. Tafuna and Peppa are going to have even better games moving forward. They haven't played really all year. Tafuna played once, but he was banged up. Once they get their legs under them and actually get into see more game action and get that, I don't know, just that game conditioning, I would say, we're really going to see that defensive line step up even more, which is scary. And then think about this, Connor O'Toole's coming back on the defensive end.
Dude.
So
my thing with Connor O'Toole is I don't see he's going to have a tough job working his way in right now. Obviously, he's really good. I'm just saying, damn, the DNs look awesome right now. I can't imagine he's that much better than they are.
I think
he's definitely splitting reps with these guys.
Yeah, I think it'll be him and Jonah Ellis for the most part on the first team, but they're going to be able to rotate in and out with Logan Fano and Van Fillinger as well to keep everybody fresh, and that's going to be pretty scary for quarterbacks.
For sure. And that's the next guy we're going to talk about. Logan Fano with an 81.7 PFF grade yesterday. And on that 81.7, he looked good in all phases: run defense, tackling, pass rush, coverage, whatever he needed to do, he was getting it done. Logan Fano, for me, feels like a guy that we hit on. Like, he is a guy that I expect to have a very high ceiling. And I think it feels like he's going to achieve it. Don't forget with him, he's still kind of coming off injury, right? He's still getting back to, he's probably at 95%, but he's still getting back to 100%. And then he needs to take the steps in development to become an even better player. I think Logan Fano, for me, this past week against UCLA looked so awesome. And just to talk about the actual stats for Logan Fano, he had 1 sack, 4 QB hits, and 3 hurries. That's a lot of the stuff that goes unnoticed, the hits and the hurries, because hits and hurries are basically just sacks where the quarterback saw you quick enough to get the ball off, right? So I thought Logan Fano straight looked awesome. For me on that D-line, Keanu Tanuvasa, if you would have asked me early third quarter who the player of the game was on that D-line, it was probably Keanu Tanuvasa, maybe Jonah Ellis. But then as we got later into the third quarter and into the fourth, Logan Fano and Jonah Ellis stepped up when they needed to. Like those game-ending drives for UCLA where they were trying to drive down the field, throw the ball, Jonah Ellis and Logan Fano were huge. That's where they got most of their pressures. I thought it was awesome. How'd you feel about Logan Fano yesterday, Brian?
I thought he was great. Same thing I kind of mentioned about Tanavasa. He's been great all year. Both super young guys. Logan's a freshman as well, redshirt fresh, or I think he's just a freshman because he was injured last year. There was one play that comes to mind that you just don't see very often. So they were setting up like a screen pass, or I don't even think it was a true screen, but either the running back or the tight end kind of peeled off. And instead of him rushing the passer and, having a free shot at the quarterback, he sensed that and stayed with him. So he actually had a pass defended in the game as well, which it was an awesome play.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and then the final guy I want to talk about is like a huge playmaker on this defense was Karine Reed. Obviously, there was the first play of the game. I mean, I'm literally, so it worked out perfectly. My flight left at like 3:30 exactly East Coast time, and that's 1:30 Mountain time. So right as the game started, I was in the air, and it was like right after the, they do that little stupid video when you first take off. Like it's like, if we crash or something.
Yeah.
So right after that video, the game started, and it was awesome, dude. And then right out the back, Karine Reed comes out, makes a huge interception, pick six. And really, that is not the whole day for Karine Reed. Karine Reed was the second highest graded player for Utah outside of, it was right behind Jonah Ellis and above Logan Fano. Looked awesome yesterday. Credited with 6 tackles, 1 QB hit. And I believe here he's got some TFLs. Yeah, he had half a TFL. But it's also when you're watching, tackles can be, when you look at a stat that's just tackles, it can be so different what the number actually means, right? Karine Reed's tackles were like open field, hard-hitting tackles, like really set the tone for this Utah defense. How'd you feel about him yesterday?
Yeah, just talking about the first play. I mean, I love the way that he just read the quarterback's eyes. I mean, it's like they anticipated that play coming before the game even started, because he read him. I mean, he read him like a T. He jumped it. Nobody.
It was a nice jump too. That was a high. I don't know how he caught that.
Yeah,
that
nobody between him and the end zone. It was. I mean, what are the odds of starting 2 of our first 4 games of the year with a touchdown on the first play of the game? That's happened twice now against both ranked teams. So no, that was just, man, that electrified everybody, electrified the stadium, and just set the tone for the whole game. But one thing I noticed that I was really impressed with was his pass defense. He had tight pass defense across the middle pretty much the entire game. There was one play where the announcers were talking about the receiver slipping, and whether he slipped or not, Reed was all over him. He was not catching the pass regardless. I mean, that's just how well he played in coverage that game. And, I'm not going to talk about the tackling. You mentioned it. It was phenomenal.
Yep. And then behind him, you had Lander Barton with an awesome game too. I don't think he was one of like the players of the game this game, but he looked awesome too. 4 tackles, 5 assists. I mean, awesome game for Lander as well. Not crazy like he's had some crazy games like against Weber State, but definitely one of the leaders of this defense. He had a great day too. Where did Levani Demouni wind up? Was he not playing?
I never, you know what?
I didn't realize that till just now. Yeah, wow. I wonder if he was injured. Was he one of the guys who was in?
I didn't hear that, but now that you say it,
and he has no stat, and PFF would put him in here if he was graded. Yeah, I wasn't looking out for him. I was just watching the D line get back there and wreak havoc. So
yeah, because he's led the team in tackles. So this year,
yeah, that's not good. Hopefully he's all right. We'll probably have an update soon. Anyways, this is what it is there. The defense overall had such a great day. Now, before we move on to talking about the offense, I would like to spend a little bit of time talking about the Utah defensive backs. And I don't think the Utah defensive backs had a terrible game, but if you're anything like me, and as we go into this, guys, like the video, comment along. Seriously, comment along with us. I want to hear your opinions. Subscribe to the channel if you love Utah football and share the video with someone. But these Utah defensive backs gave us some problems yesterday. There were times. The good thing is that Dante Moore didn't take advantage of it most of the time. He was too shook by the D-line to really take advantage. But there were multiple times yesterday where we were in cover 3, and I've noticed this a few times this season, where we're in and it's cover 3 specifically, cover 3 zone, and someone is wide open. I don't know if I'm the only one noticing this, but I'm just losing my mind. And a guy I think deserves to be called out a little because it happened against Baylor and it happened against UCLA. I'm sure a lot of you guys already know who I'm going to say, is Miles Battle. I'm not sure what is going on there, why guys are wide open. And I don't even think he's the second lowest PFF grade above Junior Tafuna. And I don't even think that's really that accurate of a grade because it's happening a lot. And I think that PFF can have trouble sometimes with cover 3, judging whose guy it really is. They just go by whoever the closest guy was. But I thought Miles Battle had a pretty rough day. And I don't want to, berate Miles Battle. My thing is just, I thought there was a few DBs. I don't want to call out names to be a jerk, but there was a few DBs that had trouble in coverage, and it showed towards the end of the game. And don't forget, there was that wide open pass that was dropped by Josiah Norwood in the end zone. I mean, that should have been a touchdown for UCLA. If you're Morgan Scalley on Monday, you count that as a touchdown, So, Brian, what are your thoughts, man? How did you feel? Because I got to tell you, I was a little disappointed with the DBs. I know it was a little different because we had Cole Bishop playing more in the box than usual, and Tao Johnson was playing more free safety. I mean, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought that on paper it probably looks better than what it was. Like you were saying, there were shots that were missed. There was one dropped pass that would have been a touchdown. Yeah, they had several more opportunities than what it showed up in the box score. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, they did move Teo to free safety and brought Vaki down at nickel.
Yeah.
I'd have to watch some tape. Someone in the Mason in the comments said that it was sketchy in coverage, but I without watching the film, I couldn't tell you if it was coverage at the nickel position or.
And that's why I'm saying when it's cover 3, it's a little hard to tell.
Yeah, and Teo has been our best graded.
Yeah, he's actually great. He was our best graded yesterday too. He was the highest graded DB yesterday.
So I don't think Teo's necessarily I think it was probably a good idea to put him back there because that's where he's probably going to be next year. Just with how everything's going to shake out, I believe. So, I don't know. I mean, the corners definitely seem to lose guys in coverage, and it happened multiple times again yesterday, and against a Caleb Williams or a Michael Penix or Bo Nix. They're not going to miss those open receivers. We just happened to get pressure early on Dante Moore to cause him to, probably release the ball a little too soon because Dante Moore can make those throws as well. So we got lucky, I think, having a freshman there.
No, for sure. There was a lot that you can attribute to Dante Moore. Obviously, our home field advantage. People drop passes every now and then. We got pretty lucky with drop passes this past game. I want to say there were at least 3 I can think of off the top of my head. They weren't perfect throws, but they were more drops, in my opinion. Pac-12 Pilgrim, Larry, constant. He's a contributor to the channel. Larry, good to have you here. I agree, Larry. I think this is spot on. It's like there were times yesterday where I really felt, and I'm with you on Battle, but I don't think he's the only one. I really don't want to call out too many names. These are college kids. I want them to just get better. But in general, the DBs, it felt at times they didn't understand what cover 3 is. And I mean, I'm not out here playing college football, but I'm like, I know what cover 3 is. I knew that in high school, right? And like you're right, Larry, where I wonder how much of it is that, you know how Scally runs that defense where we wait to see what the offense does, then he immediately checks and we switch it up. Maybe that has a little bit to do with it and they just need more practice with that. But if I'm Morgan Scally, my number one focus is on this Monday is, hey, like you guys better know your assignments, because cover 3, dude, if you don't know your assignment, that means 1/3 of the field is just going to be like Larry's saying, he thinks he's playing cover 2. Miles Battle's playing the flat right up front, and he's pressing his guy like he's playing cover 2 instead of dropping back in the third. And you guys are both right. If you do that against Penix or Caleb Williams, that's easily a touchdown, dude. Like not even doubting it. And I know Broughton has his issues, but I don't think Broughton was ever like that, letting guys wide open in the far third. So anything else you want to touch on there before I move on?
No, I mean, I just want to say Battle has a ton of ability, and he's a really skilled guy. He's still learning because he's, you know, at the cornerback position, because he used to be a wide receiver. So hopefully they can address a lot of those coverage issues, you know, in the film study as the season goes on, before we really start playing these high-level passing teams.
Yeah.
Because we get a break next week. Watching Oregon State last night, I mean, they have a fantastic running game, and that's going to be the focus. But you know, they can throw it a little bit, but it's not like what you're going to see with Washington, Oregon, and USC. So hopefully we can get things dialed in prior to that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it a break next week, because we're going at Oregon State, and they did put up 35 points. I don't know if I call it a break, but I agree after yesterday, I feel a little better about that game. I'd agree with that. One thing I do want to touch on before we move off the defense, this should be pretty exciting for you guys, is we are currently the 3rd best rushing defense in the entire country. We are against FBS teams. We are averaging less than 50 yards rushing allowed per game. I think a lot of that's because we're getting so many sacks, but I also think that's because we are tough to run against. It is obvious, like they get a chunk here and there, but there's so many back to the lines or 1 yard, 2 yard gains. It is awesome to see. So that is super exciting for this defense, allowing less than 50 rushing yards a game. And these are real rushing yards allowed. These are not like you're up by 3-4 scores, and so they're just passing the ball like crazy, which I'd imagine the 2 teams above us, I haven't watched their whole games, but I'm imagining that's a lot of what that is. With Utah, we are actually up by a ton of scores. And so the games are so close because our offense is so lackluster right now that these are tight games. Like if they want to run, they can. It's not like they have to pass because they're down 2-3 scores. All right, and make sure you guys like the video as we jump into the offense here. Let's go ahead and start with the main guy, Nate Johnson. Brian, I want you to go first on this one. How'd you feel about Nate Johnson yesterday? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought he had some shaky moments, but I mean, it's hard to judge him when you hand the ball off 85% of the time. I mean, I guess I can judge his handoffs to the running back, but I did not like the game plan behind that. I understood what they were doing. They were putting it on their defense's shoulders, but roll the kid out. Let's see his legs. Let's see his ability. He can throw on the run too. He's proven that. So we did one design rollout and scored a touchdown. Got Lannon King open across the flat and scored a touchdown in doing so. I mean, why can't we do more of that? I don't know. I think what we've been doing and just allowing a defense to load the box, knowing you're not going to pass, is not the ticket. It's just a recipe for going 3 and out, which seems counterproductive to me. I would, if they're worried about mistakes, I think the mistake is 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. A quarterback's going to throw an interception. It's going to happen. I mean, let the kid show off his arm. And when he did, I thought he looked just fine. Vele actually had a pretty good game and got open for him on a couple of pretty pretty long passing plays. It was I thought they were going to continue getting it going, and then they just went straight back to running between the tackles. So.
That was weird, wasn't it? It felt like there were times where it like just started to click, and we were like, "Oh, like Nate's looking good." I can remember a specific window. I'm not sure the exact, maybe late second quarter, something like that, where it started to click, and you were like, "Oh yeah, maybe we're getting something going with the passing game." And then all of a sudden, it was like, "Oh no, we're not going to throw anymore."
Yeah, I like I said, I just don't understand it. The defense is doing great for you, but we still have to put points on the board to win. Yeah. You know, we won yesterday, but we only scored 7 points,
and it got close. The end of that game,
yeah, it did get close. I mean, I even said this to a group I'm in. I said, you know, it should not we should not be concerned right now, but here we are. And it was towards the end of the game when UCLA, you know, was getting the ball back after we could not pick up a 3rd and 1 because we tried running up the middle every time. So, yeah, it got way too close for comfort. That game should have been a blowout. I will give UCLA's defense credit. They were
good.
They're a really good defense.
Yeah.
They're probably the 2nd best defense in the Pac-12. Just looking at them.
But you know who the first best is?
It's kind of what we had heard coming in. You know, you usually don't think about UCLA defense, but they were good. So that didn't help. But also, I think, you know, if we use a little bit more of the playbook and let Nate, you know, utilize more of his skill set, I think it could have been a better day.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think my feelings, and I'm guessing a lot of Utah fans feel the same way as you. I would say I've been a guy that's been super critical of Andy Ludwig at times. I didn't feel necessarily like he called the worst game. I think it was he is having a tough job right now. He is down a lot of starters, like a lot of good starters, especially once JJ went down. And it is like, hey, like we got to find a way to figure this out. We got to keep pushing. And I felt like Nate, to me, I agree. If they would have let him do more, I think it would have paid off. And I think that would have been a more ideal game plan. But I don't think Nate played terribly. I don't think he played great. But I think it could have been better. Like Larry says in the comment here I got on the screen, it seemed like we wanted to get it throwing, but our offensive line couldn't protect Nate. You know what's funny is it was actually the opposite how the grades looked for PFF. The grades for pass blocking was actually pretty decent, except for 2 guys. So, and those are probably the 2 guys you're referring to, Larry, because there were 2 guys that did really poorly pass blocking. Let me pull that up here. Jaren Kump had a rough day, and so did Keaton Bills. I think those were the 2 guys that were continuously letting pressure back. You know, it was awesome. I'm going to move on to talking about our offensive line. They did pretty well pass blocking outside of Jaren Kump and Keaton Bills. Like Spencer Fano is a guy I've been pretty critical of. He had a really high pass blocking grade against one of the best edge rushers in college football. I don't think he was matched up with him as much as I thought. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but it was they had him as kind of Latu. He was kind of like a hybrid edge rusher linebacker sort of guy. He wasn't always on the line. He was kind of back a little bit. So that was surprising, but Spencer Fano did great. And so did Seitao Laumea, did great at pass blocking, but almost across the board, our offensive line really struggled with run blocking. And I think you saw that when you were watching the game. There were, as much as there were some good plays in our running game, there were some plays where you were like, hey, Jalen Glover has 3 guys on him before he even, you know, gets a chance to get to the line. That was a little annoying. How'd you feel about the offensive line yesterday, Brian?
Yeah, I thought this was probably our worst game I've seen the offensive line play. You know, it kind of a testament to the UCLA front. We knew they were going to be difficult, but there were some wide open blocks that were missed. I actually watched Laumea miss like 2 in a row run blocks, and I don't know.
Which is weird. He's usually so damn good. How does that happen?
Yeah, I have no idea. Larry and I actually talked last night after the game, and he was talking, you know, it seemed like, and is he in? Is Larry in? I guess
he's in the chat. He's been commenting a lot.
I thought he was in the thing. But anyways, he said that it looked like, they were either running the wrong play than what Nate called, or Nate was running the wrong play. There was definitely some confusion where at one time he had seen 3 offensive linemen block one guy, and it's just let the floodgates open. So there were missed assignments, missed blocks. The tight end blocking continues to just be non-existent. At this point, I mean, if we're not going to throw to the tight ends, let's just do 12.
Yeah, run a spread.
Let's do 12 personnel and bring in another offensive lineman.
What is going on with these tight ends, dude? I didn't make a note of that, but you're right. What is going on, dude? Like, they're two of the lowest graded players on this offense. It really doesn't make a lot of sense, especially Thomas Yasmin. Like, Suga Taraga, you're like, okay, he's adjusting, but it's like Yasmin, like, at least receiving wise, you'd think he'd be good, but he's been struggling all year, and that's not helping Nate out. Very odd.
Yep.
All right, a good. But just to close on the offensive line, again, an up and down day. It feels like we're yet to have a complete day from the offensive line. Even against Weber State, it didn't feel like we had a very complete day. Hopefully, we can start to get there. I've found with Utah, keeping track of them over and really, analyzing them over multiple seasons now, it takes us about 6 to 7 games, and then all of a sudden the offensive line gets really good. It's very odd. Like every year, everyone's like, "Oh, Utah's offensive line is so good." I feel like people that don't actually watch the games just say that every year, and it's like, yeah, our offensive line is good by the end of the year. They're not good at the beginning. Every year, it's taken at least 4 or 5 games. So Oregon State's going to be a good one to step it up again. So if we're deciding what game we want our O-line to figure it out, it's going to be a tough one, dude. If Nate Johnson is a starter against Oregon State, that will not be an easy game. Jalen Glover, I felt like if there was anyone that deserved a shout out on the offense yesterday, there wasn't a lot.
I don't know if I lost audio or if you lost Mike, but I can't hear. What's that, Joseph? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, there you are. You're back.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. Make sure you guys like the video to give Mike good luck. Sorry about that. I thought Jalen Glover, if anyone deserved a shout out yesterday, he did. It wasn't a crazy average. We could pull it up here. It was, 3.4. That's not great. But, I mean, you watched the game yesterday. It was basically like there's 8 in the box. Run it up the gut with Jalen Glover. What do you expect him to do? And I feel like to get 3+ yards of carry in that situation, I'm not mad. He also had that one catch up the sideline that was kind of a tough catch. He had to, slow down and come back for it a little bit. And it was a rocket coming at him. So I thought that was pretty good. I thought Jalen Glover had a good day. You look at it, our total offensive yards were – where is it? Where is total offensive yards recap? Where is it?
I had it. It was like 219, right?
Let's see. Total yards, 219. Yep. And Jalen Glover had over 100 yards. It was barely over 100 yards, but he was half of our offense. He was basically the whole offense outside of the few passes Nate threw. How'd you feel about Jalen Glover yesterday?
I agree with you. I think he was the bright spot for that Utah offense, especially with Jaquindon Jackson going down again. I just think he's had this. I think it's been the same injury, and it just keeps getting retweaked. We really need him healthy down the stretch.
Yeah, damn, bad time for him to get injured.
Yeah, it really is. But Glover stepped up. I thought Glover kind of hit his stride last week. That was probably the best game I'd seen Glover play. And I think week to week, it's just been that way. He started playing better in Baylor, and then Weber, which you can't really judge. But now against this UCLA defense that had the box stacked the entire game, to do what he did was impressive. He looked good. He was shifty. he was shifty and he finishes runs well. He's a big, strong running back. So
I feel pretty confident in saying if we don't have Jalen Glover, if like Jalen Glover and JJ are out, there's a good shot it's a very different game how that one ends, because he was the only thing keeping the offense alive.
Yeah, and then how about that blitz?
Oh, dude,
that he did where
so cool. Yeah.
He just threw his body out there. He just sacrificed his body, and he got smoked. But that was a
you heard it. You heard the helmets collide
Yeah.
in the broadcast. It was a smack, dude. Yeah.
But the thing I'm more impressed with, the recognition to see that coming, and actually, that for him to start developing some of that pass protection, in the backfield, that's exactly what we need to develop Nate and get this passing offense going. So, and the tight ends blocking, but.
No, I agree 100%. He actually, pass blocking, it says he didn't grade out well, but who knows what that sample size is. It says 6 pass blocking snaps. It said he didn't grade out well, but we only really watched that one play, right? We didn't see every pass blocking play. All right, cool. And then with that, let's go ahead and move on. Let's see, anything else? Just one thing real quick after this, I probably want to move on to talking about the Pac-12, talking about Oregon State, unless you want to talk about other stuff. But I just wanted to talk about, I almost guarantee you guys, the BYU haters and everybody else that just, tries to find any negative they can in Utah is going to act like UCLA is garbage now. Like, moving forward, it is until UCLA looks good again. It's like, no, UCLA sucks, which we all know is not the case. People were hyping up UCLA. 4 of the 5 game day predictions were that UCLA was going to beat Utah at Rice-Eccles. And you got to imagine most of those game day guys know how good Rice-Eccles is at home. Maybe they don't know the full extent, but they have an idea. They've seen Utah play at home and how good it is. I just think moving forward, just make sure you guys hold people accountable. If anyone starts acting like UCLA sucks, make sure you remind them what they thought of UCLA coming into this game, because many people were acting like UCLA was going to put up 25, 30-plus points on Utah's defense and that we would not be able to hang with them. And me and the rest of the crew here at the Utah Utes Football Digest continued to say they are unproven. This has been a cupcake schedule, and we don't know. They could be great. They could be bad. Their defense looks really, really good. That looks like one of the best defenses in Pac-12. Their offense looks like once they played a real team like Utah, it was different. So I would just say all these people that act like they sold off UCLA now and that UCLA sucks and they're not going to give Utah a ton of credit for this win, that's just a little unfair, little hypocritical. What are your thoughts on that, Brian, before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, keep worrying about Kansas. They got bigger things to worry about. If
that hit?
If that's what they're going to be talking about, but yeah.
Did you see that hit?
It was that was wicked.
Oh my gosh, bro! Did you see all the BYU fans like, how is this not targeting? It's like, well, we
it
can
wasn't
explain
targeting.
Why it's not targeting to you. Yeah,
it wasn't targeting. He's a running.
It definitely wasn't. Yeah, he hit him with his shoulder.
Yeah,
and I saw someone like pull up the rules, and what it is like, if you hit a defenseless player, it can be any attack towards the head and neck, or forcible contact towards head and neck area. But the guy wasn't defenseless. He was running a wide receiver reverse and coming up the line. So
yeah, he's basically a running back at that time. So.
Yeah, that the only way that can happen is the crown.
Yeah, but anyways, enough about them.
All right, let's talk about the Pac-12 first, and then we'll talk about Oregon State. Sound fun? Let's see here. I'll let you lead us in, Brian. I'm going to pull it up here. Let me just mute the tab. You always got to mute them before you get going, or you get the – dude, I learned that the hard way. Every week I learned it the hard way. All right, here we go. Zoom in a bit. All right, so first game, we got Oregon at home smacking down Colorado. Brian, what are your thoughts? How'd you feel about that?
That was exactly how I expected this game to go. I did not believe Colorado could compete once they got into the Pac-12, especially the the meat of the Pac-12.
Yeah.
You know, the Oregons, Utah, USC, Washington, those type of teams, and it really showed. They did miss Travis Hunter, obviously, but one guy isn't going to make up 30-something points. And to be honest, Bo Nix really didn't play much in the second half. So they probably could have put up 70 on him.
Dude, Deion Sanders looked so pissed at the end of that game. I watched up in like at halftime when he was walking into the tunnel to go to the half. He looked angry, dude. He looked embarrassed, humiliated. Like he looked like he was having a bad time.
Well, it was 35-0 at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that would be a tough one there after you've done nothing but talk all week about people are gonna be able to see who they really are. I think we saw.
Yeah, you know what? For me, I feel like Deion Sanders has this big ego, and I actually like it a little bit. I think it's fun to watch. It's like fun to have in your conference. Yeah. It's like a guy you want to take down, right? And it's like, who doesn't talk big about their own team? Like Utah, we're like, yo, we're the best team in the Pac-12. Everyone wants to be the best team, and my thing was the media.
Yes.
How the media has been hyping up Colorado and talking my qualm is not with Colorado. Like Colorado was a little cocky and they're a little rude. And I saw them like raking their cleats on the Oregon sign or logo. That was a little annoying. Not that I really care. It's Oregon. It's not Utah, but I just found like the media had like so many. I feel like this game showed you how many people in the media were super uninformed. Like real talking heads, like they have like real talk shows, were thinking that Colorado was going to go to Oregon, which their talent disparity is huge, and Oregon has one of the best home field advantages in college football. And you thought Colorado was going to go in there and take on Oregon, and not to mention, if you really dive even deeper, that Oregon's thing, like when we talk about high-level recruiting, they recruit so well on the offensive and defensive lines. Like that, they have studs all up and down that depth chart. And you thought one of the worst offensive and defensive lines in the Pac-12 was going to go in there and hang with Colorado. I did not see that happening at all.
They actually had a 5-star defensive lineman commit after that game. Oregon did.
Not surprising, dude. But we just got to get one of those. Like I was saying earlier. Hey, real quick, just a fun little side note. If we get a 5-star commitment, what position do you think it'll be at? What do you think the first 5-star commitment will be at?
Probably safety or linebacker.
I didn't think of either of those, but I agree. My thought was running back. I just don't know if a running back's going to want to share the backfield the way Utah does it. But you look at running backs, we put out a ton of good running backs. So.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. Honestly, Utah has so many freaking good positions. All right. Let's move to the next game. Obviously, we just spent a lot of time on Utah, UCLA. I didn't watch this game, Arizona, Stanford. Let's take a look here. All right. So
I didn't watch it either, but it surprised me.
Yeah. I heard Jalen Glover got injured. That's what the word is, and that's why it was so close. That would make sense. So, and make sure you guys like the video as you jump in. But yeah, it's kind of, I would say Jalen Glover is a big part of the Arizona offense. If he's not in there, it's a big hit for Arizona, and I would imagine they won't be as much of a contender. They have a good receiving core, but you need a good quarterback to make a good receiving core. Won't spend too much time on that, but if Stanford, a team that has looked pretty rough to start the year, is keeping it that close with you, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, and they go to Washington next week, so it's not going to get any easier. Or maybe Washington they play Washington. I don't know where the game's at. I see Delora being in for the most part. There's another quarterback, Fafita, who had 4. He was 4 for 4 in passing. So
must have been at the end of the game. He got
yeah. Delora played for the most part. It looks like he was 14 for 26. So Yeah, I hadn't heard, but anyways, yeah, it's not going to get easier for them. We'll have to keep an eye on that team. They can be one of those teams that just wreck a season. So we'll keep an eye on them. But yeah.
No, I agree 100%. They're one of the, and for Utah, it feels like every year we get a little stumble at Arizona. We don't lose, but it's kind of like it gets way closer than you'd like it to be. All right, the next game, I want to get your thoughts on this one, Brian. So 38-35, Washington State over Oregon State. I think I stopped watching this game at 35-21 Washington State. So it looks like Oregon State had quite the comeback and then just didn't wind up pulling it off. Like where you said earlier that Oregon State didn't look great. That's how I felt until I saw how close they got. I mean, what happened in the end of that game? What'd you see there?
Well, yeah, they scored 21 points in the fourth quarter. I wasn't fully engaged with it, so I couldn't tell you exactly how they got all those points.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure DJU threw one touchdown in the fourth quarter.
242 rushing yards for Oregon State. Damn.
Yeah, and their main guy, Damian Martinez, wasn't even their lead rusher. It was Deshaun Fenwick.
Yeah.
And he had 3 touchdowns. So DJU also ran for a touchdown and used his legs quite a bit. But passing wise, they didn't seem like they terrified me too much in their passing game. He was 50% passing, 17 for 34 for only 198 yards and threw a touchdown and a pick. So I think if we can, obviously we're playing them next week. So I think if we control the line of scrimmage and keep their running backs from running all over, that's going to be a key to victory also in this next game. Similarly to how it was a key against UCLA. It's just going to be a lot harder environment going to. It
feels like UCLA has become a lot more like Oregon State and Utah this year.
Yeah, they really have. Yep.
Yeah. Even last year, you saw glimpses, and that's why they were able to beat Utah last year. All right, let's move on to the next game. We'll talk about Oregon State, Utah to close out here in a little bit. But Cal versus Washington. So I think a lot of people look at this and they see that Washington won by a big margin, right? 27 points. When I look at this, I expect Washington to put up 59 points on Cal. And I don't think Cal is terrible, but Cal's not good. I do not expect Washington to allow Cal to put up 32 points. That's actually quite a bit of scoring there. I wonder how much of that is backups. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I did not watch this game. I'm guessing a lot of people didn't watch this game because you thought Washington was going to destroy them. But 363 passing yards for Cal and 139 rushing yards. I would say for me, I look at that and I say that probably a lot of that's garbage time, but still exciting to see that Cal could put up 32 points. I don't think Washington's going to get near 59 points when they play Utah. I think even the cream of the crop in the Pac-12 is looking at 28 to 31 points against Utah, as long as we can tighten up this DB room. And then Utah, we just got to get Cam back or got to start clicking, because I can tell you, you're right, Brian, when you say that Oregon State, probably won't need to put up a ton of points, right? Because our key is run defense, and we can limit their run game, force them to throw, and I think our defense will make them make mistakes. But we need to get something going on offense by the time, whether that's Cam being back or whatever it is. We need something going by the time we're playing Washington, Oregon, and USC, because it's not going to. If we see what we saw against UCLA, it's not going to be a good time.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on Washington, Cal?
One thing was interesting. Washington had 14 points on the board before their offense even set foot on the field. So they had a defensive touchdown, pick six, and then they ran a kickback, right?
Well, did Cal score on their first possession? Something. I mean,
no.
I heard about this though.
Yeah, how did that happen? How did they get?
Must be a punt return then. Must be a punt.
Was
return.
that? Yeah, was the was it might have been a punt return. I can't
or
remember.
a field goal,
It
blocked
was a
field goal.
return by Odunze. I did see that.
Oh, cool. All right, well, let's move on to this game. I actually think this is a very peculiar game. USC winning 42-28 against ASU. Funny enough, that's the exact score UCLA beat Stanford by to start the season off last year. I don't know why I remember that. I just remember that. But you look here, so USC threw for 322 yards and they ran for 213 yards. What's going on there? How did they not put up more points? It's 500 plus yards. What are you thinking looking at that, Brian? How's that got you feeling?
I watched this game for the most part. I didn't see the very end. I ended up falling asleep, but I watched a lot of this game. So the USC defense looked like the typical USC defense, and the USC offensive line looked absolutely terrible. Williams was getting pressured all the time, and he seems a little bit different this year.
Really?
Pressured. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is, whether he's just trying to avoid getting a hit and keeping his draft stock high, but Utah could be a game wrecker for them, similar to how it was last year in the Pac-12 championship. They have weaknesses.
I'm telling you, USC does not scare me as much as Oregon and Washington. Right now, I feel like USC is not on the level of Oregon and Washington. I think they're really good. Yeah, but it makes no sense why USC is like top 5 or whatever in the AP and Washington and Oregon are not.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona State got shut out last week, and they were torching them pretty good, torching that defense, which not surprising. We keep hearing their defense is better, but they haven't played anybody that can do anything offensively. So, including this game, I mean, Arizona State they haven't been good on offense this year.
Arizona State only put up 24 points against SUU.
Yeah, won by 3. Yeah.
Yeah. They're not good at all. Like for me, it's them and Stanford as the 2 worst teams in the Pac-12. So hopefully that's a good sign for us that USC might not be as good as a lot of people thought they were. All right, well now let's go ahead and move in to talking a little bit about. We're gonna get out of here soon, guys. Before we do though, please make sure you like the video, comment your thoughts on the Utah-Oregon State game as we talk about it. Subscribe to the channel and seriously share the video with a friend, share the channel with someone. But let's talk about it. So this is the next matchup, and I've got to believe this is the hardest test of the season for Utah. I agree with you that it is a bit of a break considering we get another week without going against one of the studs of the Pac-12. I think UCLA, that defense was legit, and it was a tough game. But Oregon State, we are going to Oregon State. It is such a tough place to play in, man. We got a hater in the chat. I don't know if you saw him, Brian.
Oh yeah, I've been reading him. I'm not gonna give him
let's ignore him. Yeah,
most Duck fans are pretty sensible. I'm not gonna respond to him.
Yeah, they barely beat us when they were at home last year, and they're coming to Rice Eccles this year. I think we got a really good shot as long as we got Cam Rising back. My money's on us. Like if Cam Rising's in there, my money's on us. So I think you got some troll Duck fans. You got to think they've been at the top of the conversation for a long time. They big heads. All right, so Utah, Oregon State. Let's take a look here. I'm going to pull up some numbers. So Oregon State against FBS teams are averaging 210 rushing yards per game. That puts them at the number 13 rushing team in the country. Like I said earlier, Utah the run defense is amazing, right? The run defense is amazing. Top against FBS teams, and all of the FBS teams we have played are Power 5. Oregon State's FBS teams have not all been Power 5. So we are the number 3 run defense in the country against a bunch of Power 5 teams. How do you feel? So how do you feel about their rushing offense against our rushing defense?
Yeah, first of all, just talk about our rush defense. We're number 3 in the country. We've gone against Florida, who tries to control the running game, and they did so very well against Tennessee. that's just kind of a good comparison there to show how well Utah does stop the run. And then UCLA, who was one of the leaders in rushing yards going into this game, and they had 9 and Florida had 13. Like you said, some of that is with sacks, since there were 7 sacks and 5 sacks, I think, in the 2 games. But this run defense is stout. They are assignment sound. There was one issue in the first half of the Baylor game, which was allowing Baylor to run the ball a little bit. It seems like things did get cleaned up there, though, and that was kind of a weird environment. Super hot on a 11 a.m. game, but this game's going to be tough too, because one thing you didn't mention, it's a Friday night game in Corvallis. So those are always those strange Pac-12 games on Fridays. So that can be a concern. That place will be rowdy. Their running game is everything that has been advertised. Damian Martinez I think he's their best back. He didn't run for the most yards this last game, but he's their best running back. That offensive line, it continues to do exceptional run blocking. They've been that way for about the past 3 years, and they're probably one of the best units combined in the country, with one of the best offensive line coaches in the country as well. So that's going to be their game plan. That's what they're going to want to do over and over. They're a very similar built team to how Utah is. But if we don't get some offensive production back quickly, this is a game to worry about. We need to score. I think the first to 20 probably wins this game.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me too. Yeah. And like you said, they're built super similarly to us. You look at their run defense, they're only allowing 77.3 yards per game. I would say in their case, it's a little different than ours, where that number is probably a little inflated. I mentioned this earlier in the stream, where sometimes run defense can be inflated because your team got up a lot, and then the other team's having to pass a lot. Yep. Which, who did they play? They played San Jose State and someone else before this last week.
San Jose State for sure, because they actually had to play them down at their place because the renovations weren't quite done. Let me just click on them real quick. UC Davis and San Diego State as well.
Okay, so San Jose State and San Diego State.
And UC
I feel
Davis,
like
which is
your sample size against Washington State is probably much more accurate. And then on top of that, Washington State does not run the ball. They're like allergic to it. So I feel like that number is very inflated. I'd imagine they're a good run defense, but probably more like top 40 rather than top 15. You think that's fair?
I don't think their defense, just, at first glance and my first impressions, I don't think their defense is quite as good as it was last year.
Yeah. Well, they lost. What did they lose? Seven starters or something like that? It was.
Yeah, they lost quite a few. Yeah, impact players too.
Yeah, no, they had probably right up there as the best defense in the Pac-12 last year. They were really, really good. So my thoughts, Utah, Oregon State, just to dive in, I'm just going to give my initial thoughts. I think what's going to happen is we are going to need to figure something out. Before we give initial thoughts, and we can give a rough prediction. I know neither one of us has probably deep dived and thought too much about it. But, Brian, I just want to hear your thoughts. You think Cam's playing this week or what?
I give up. I give up trying to think about that, trying to predict that. I have no idea. I thought he was playing this last week.
It really felt that way. It really did.
I think all signs pointed to that, and he took a lot of the first team reps in practice, which also didn't help Nate Johnson and the game plan designed probably around Cam up until the last minute or the day before, basically. So I don't know. If he was held out this last game, I just don't see him coming back till after the bye, because we have a bye week after Oregon State. So that would give him basically 2 additional weeks to get right, get healthy, get to feeling better. Not that he's feeling hurt, but get his mind right around trusting the injury, I guess is what I should say. Because I think that's the biggest thing. It sounds like he's cleared. So if it's up to him or the coaches, or maybe he's going through some swelling issues, I have no idea. But I just don't see them throwing him in here on this short week is what I honestly, my gut tells me. But I could be wrong. Fair. I've been wrong the whole year so far.
I feel like what I'd like both of us to do before we get out of here is give our thoughts in both scenarios, right? Whether Cam is playing, and obviously this isn't a deep dive. These can change. Our thoughts in a couple days once we dive deeper could be much different than they are right now. I'll go ahead and go first, Brian. So I think what's going to happen in this game with Utah's defense is we are going to limit their run game. They'll be able to I think they'll get a couple chunks and some steady runs here and there. But as the game keeps going, they will need to throw the ball. I think watching Oregon State in the games that I have, we need to put the game on DJU. I think that's pretty clear. He's not bad, but he's not a guy you want to have the game in his hands if you're an Oregon State fan. I think that's got to be the game plan. Shut down that run. Let our defensive line get back there, cause havoc. I think it was clear after yesterday this is one of the better D-lines in the country, if not one of the best D-lines in the country. We need to get back there. We need to cause some havoc, put it on DJU, and make sure they're not running for over 120 plus yards. Like really limit that run game, which I think we can absolutely do. And that's going to put the game on our pass defense for sure, which has been suspect at times. I hope they step up, and I hope this week there were so many flaws in our pass defense with our DBs this past week that I can't imagine that won't be the focus of this upcoming week. I know you can't fix everything, but you got to fix that before Oregon State. And hopefully this can lead to us really, doing some good things against their offense, against our defense. My prediction for how many points they score is in the 17 to 20 range. I think that's a pretty good guess. I think they're going to get some points, but I think we have a very good defense, and they could even be better than what they showed against UCLA. Like Dante Moore, it really, you don't know what it was. Was our defense just amazing and made a good quarterback look very below average, or was it that they hadn't played anyone? So our defense could go out there and look insane against Oregon State. But when you consider the Florida sample size, our defense is probably one of the best defenses in the country. And then our offense, I think you got to have some concerns there. We really struggled to move the ball against UCLA. I think a little bit of that was game plan. We were just trying to milk the clock. We were just trying to figure things out and, survive and move on. I think that was the game plan. It was, let's just milk this clock, let our defense win us the game, survive and move on. And I think our offense is going to need a little more. We're going to need a little more in this game. I think that was a really good UCLA defense. I don't think that was the true talent that our offense is without Cam. I think that was just a really good UCLA defense. And so we're going to need to step it up. We're going to need to look better on offense. We're going to need to put up points. It's funny, just as I'm going, I feel very similar to this game as I did the last game. I'm going 21-17 for Utah. I think that's how we win this game. 3 touchdowns on offense and just really limit them when they're on offense. And before Brian gives his prediction, if you guys appreciate the videos, drop it a like. Also, comment down below. What are your guys' predictions for the Utah-Oregon State game? Obviously, there's a lot more research to do and to think about, but we want to know what you guys think. And make sure, if you guys love Utah Utes football, subscribe to this channel. We just put out Utah Utes football content all the damn time. Go look at the video list over the past 3 weeks. There's literally a video every day except Sunday. And today's a Sunday. We're doing a video. But all right, Brian, give us your thoughts on Oregon State, man.
Yeah, they're really similar to what you just talked about. They're going to try to establish the running game. I think this Utah defense really limits them in the running game. And they're going to just continue to try to do that until they have to start passing. And I just don't see where I'm really concerned about their passing attack. Like you said, DJU is a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. He's a super athletic guy, can do a lot of things, but especially if you put a little pressure on him, you can see mistakes made. I mean, you could kind of talk any quarterback for that matter if you put.
I would even say, Brian, I feel like after the past couple of weeks, to me seems more like average to above average. I wouldn't even put him at good anymore. I actually have been pretty disappointed with him. The 50% completion percentage, I mean.
Yeah, that's tough, and he's going to be playing a lot better defense this weekend or this Friday. So I think defensively we hold, 14 to 17 points. Some maybe even 13 to 17, a couple field goals and a touchdown. Offensively, I think we will be better. This Oregon State defense is not as good as what we just saw with UCLA, which, who would have thought you'd be saying that, with how the teams are built.
A year ago, yeah.
Recent history, yeah. But they just aren't. I've seen them be able to be exposed. I think Larry put this in the chat, but Cam Ward was just throwing these little short crossers all game on them. And if we could maybe expose
422 passing yards.
Yeah, if we could expose some of that and get Nate Johnson hitting Mikey Matthews on some crossing routes, that's going to help open things up in the running game for us as well.
Nate's going to get 200. I feel good about that. If we give him opportunity, he's getting 200. If Cam Ward can do 422, Nate can get 200.
Yeah, and we need to focus on getting him rolled out on, a few more possessions and getting him out in space and letting him operate and let Vele work down the field too, because he did look pretty good this last game. So that is going to be a key, I think. Maybe some Landon King too, because I am excited about Landon King in the tight end department. As far as Yasmin,
it can't be worse than what we're doing right now.
Yeah, as far as
looking pretty damn bad.
And Sugataraga go, we're 4 games in at this point, and we aren't seeing it. I just don't expect to see anything changing in that, for that matter. Landon King has looked good though. I've seen him open on a lot of occasions, and we finally got him his first touchdown. So if we could get working with that, Mikey Matthews, Vele, Landon, I think that is a way to really get that passing offense kick-started. And then give the coaches and Ludwig confidence to allow Nate to throw the ball. So I'm thinking it's going to be like 21 or 20 to 13. I'll say the same as the Baylor score. Maybe even less without Cam. Maybe 17-13. It's going to be a grind.
Game.
It's going to be a grind. We're going to have to deal with this for a while.
Yeah, I think you and I both agreed UCLA was a really good defense. I think the numbers showed that before the game, and then the game solidified it. Like, that was a legit defense. And I think when you consider that, you can be pretty optimistic after that UCLA game that we were able to get not much going, but something going against an amazing defense with our backup running back and our backup quarterback and our backup tight ends, right? It's like
exactly.
Yeah. I think the game plan from here on out, guys, and this has been the game plan for a few weeks, is keep winning until Cam gets back. Obviously, you want to keep winning once Cam gets back, but just figure out ways to win dirty, nasty, ugly games until Cam gets back. And then a win is a win. It doesn't matter if it's 3 points, if it's 7 points, if it's 25 points. A win is a win. And then when Cam gets back, we start. I mean, if we're 5-6-0 when Cam gets, if we're 5-0, 6-0 when Cam gets back, you got to imagine the aspirations are high.
I think we would, if it came to being undefeated when Cam got back, I would say 5-0 because I think it would happen after the bye week.
And then he's playing Cal, right?
And then we play Cal after the bye week. Yeah,
it's a good week to come back.
Good time to bring him back in.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I rust off a little bit.
I'm in total agreement. I mean, who cares how we win? By Wednesday of the next week, nobody cares how the game was won. They just see that there's another win in the winning column on the score sheet. So, or on the schedule. So, yeah, if you would have said that we'd be 4-0 right now without seeing Cam Rising, how many fans would believe that statement before?
Yeah, we'd all sign up for that
week. So let's not freak out, people. Our defense is keeping us in games. It can be ugly, it can be stressful, but you know what? It's pretty damn fun when you're annihilating people on the defensive side of the ball. So they aren't going anywhere. When we get our full offensive repertoire back, this is going to be a very, very scary team.
Yeah, that's how I feel right now. As much as it's stressful to watch right now, because it's like there's not much going on offense. The fact that we're winning these games should get you excited for what we look like once those guys are back. Real quick, one last thought. AP poll. Where are you thinking, Brian?
It should be out.
Oh, is it out?
Right?
I'll look it up right now.
Yeah. It should have came out 18 minutes ago. All right. So
they in the top
10. No surprise here. With Notre Dame losing,
we're 10.
Even though they played at in Ohio State, I still expected them to fall a couple of spots, and that's exactly what they did fall. They just fell behind Utah and Oregon.
Well, yeah, I feel like that's exactly where I wanted us to be. I feel like I didn't expect this to jump up much. My concern was that we would stay the same or maybe drop a little because it was such an ugly win.
I think the defensive win and just people seeing what that defense did helped us remain. Did you see what happened to USC? They dropped 3 spots. They're 8.
Thanks for watching, Mason. Good stuff. What'd you say one more time, Brian?
Did you see what happened to USC? They dropped 3 spots. They're now in 8th.
Yeah, that makes sense. I felt like USC has been ranked. We were just talking about that a few minutes ago. They've been ranked way too high for a while.
But outside of that, no real.
Yo, look at that though. 7, 8, 9, 10. Washington, USC, Oregon, Utah. That's nuts, dude.
So Oregon
State, Pac-12 is so damn good right now.
Oregon State moved back to 19th. They dropped 5 places, and Washington State moved up to 16th. So basically, we're going to play another top 20 team this week. So that's kind of what I expected. I didn't think they would fall too much with both teams being ranked. And
well, that's good for our resume too. If we can, I feel like that's where they're going to have to show us some real respect in the rankings. If we go to Oregon State without our starting quarterback and beat the number 19 team in the country, you better give us a bump. I think it's fair to say you should put us over one of these other Pac-12 teams. If we get it done, I think that's fair to say. All right, dude. Well, let's not keep everybody. I'm sure a lot of people are watching this after the fact because they're watching football right now. I really wanted to do this last night. I was just, dude, you should have seen me. I'm driving from the airport to Spanish Fork, and I can barely keep my freaking eyes open, dude. It was a rough go. So we're out of here, guys. Please like the video. Please comment down below. What are your thoughts as you watch the video before or after the fact? Also, please subscribe to the channel if you guys love Utah Utes football or Pac-12 football or Big 12 football. We put out a ton of fun content to watch, and share the video with someone, guys. Get the word out. This is the place to be. Brian, thanks so much, man. Any last thoughts before we get out of here?
Nope. Just everybody be prepared for a Friday night rock throwing contest. It's gonna be tough, but I think we can get the W. So go Utes.
Agreed. Go Utes. We'll see you guys later.